Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast presented by Zwift for the UAE Tour Stage 2 Team Time Trial. Have we ever done a Team Time Trial recap, Benji?
Ooh, I think we have.
Have we?
At the start with the kiddie pool? No? Or was that before? I think we did the Vuelta 2020,
Vuelta
right?
2019 with the kiddie pool. We should clarify. That was well, we didn't. That was a Vuelta Team Time Trial when UAE and Jumbo crashed when a kid's pool collapsed and.
Was that 2019? Really? Jesus. Probably. I recall some team time trials that we mentioned, but it's just too far away at this point. Then. But there's
there
not
must have been
too
other
much
team time trials somewhere, like in some race. Bro, someone will be like, there was one 2 races ago you covered. You guys have amnesia. But yeah. Anyway, Khalifa Port to Khalifa Port. And out and back with sort of double back on itself. There was a big hairpin with, I don't know, maybe a 1.5 Ks to go. There was wind, headwind, cross headwind, some tailwind too. It did change direction, the course. So a tricky little course to see where you put down. Headwind mostly in the final, I think. So interesting some of the tactics. Flat going into the stage. Merlier was in the GC lead. Ineos had Plap on, I think, 10 seconds. Bilbao was, or maybe a bit less because of intermediate sprints, and it was really UAE, how much time could they make back up or not lose, who would win out of Ineos and Quickstep, we thought, but setting a big early mark was EF, but you know how we do this, the results first, and then we'll talk about what we thought was interesting. Soudal Quickstep winning the TT by 1 second. Then a 1 full second on the EF Education Easy Post. Ineos on 18:20 on 3 seconds behind Soudal Quickstep. They're all over 56 kilometers an hour, but under 57 kilometers an hour. Bahrain in 4th on 4 seconds. Jayco on 5 seconds. DSM on 10, so a bit of a gap to them. Then Bora, UAE on 16 seconds. Astana 9th, not bad. Then Trek 10th. And then there's this sort of also rans.
Yes, sir.
The
I think in the past, I think we had a team time trial on this podcast where we mentioned in the past where Remco Evenepoel in a team time trial was riding his team to bits. By riding too hard at the front, having a low CDA, and as a consequence, his team and his wheel was having trouble just riding the team time trial with him. I feel like that was less the case this time around, right? Or
I think so. I think he waited for one big death pull. I was surprised actually because he took, I think they lost a bit of time. He took the last hairpin first in the corner, and Remco's a great time trialist, but not a great cornerer. World Championships, the biggest evidence of that in all the corners. And then I thought he was going to come to the front and just do a huge pull, but he waited, and sort of what Quickstep did, if you look at the TT splits, to T1, which was 7 minutes in, or just over 7 to 7.5 minutes in for everybody, they were 6th. EF were 1st. Jayco was 2nd. Astana were 4th and faded a bit, but Soudal Quickstep were 6th. They were then 1st from T1 to the finish. They did 57.8 kilometers an hour, which was much quicker than their time out. So I don't know about win, but they, how much faster? 11 seconds quicker than EF. And they were, and that was Remco. What they did was they had Merlier and everyone but do a full death pull and pull off. They finished with 4 riders properly, and Remco did the last hard pull in the last 300. And yes, Benji, I just remembered it was the Utrecht TT in the Vuelta that Remco was putting people when he dropped people. I can't believe we forgot that when Hessing took red. But yeah, they were G'd up afterwards. Remco was saying, well, that's a fucking good TT, T-boys. Merlier was pumped. So I think a bit of payback as well for Merlier getting his chance yesterday.
Yeah, I think so as well. And the aspect of this time trial as well, as you mentioned it, there's different pacing strategies here. And you may also mention that the 4th rider is the one that counts for Quickstep. The 4th rider was the one that finished last in the group, basically, because they finished with 4 riders. But there are also teams that finish with more than 4 riders. And it kind of depends on what your strategy is. But I always feel like if you finish with less riders, that means that you spend your riders more optimized throughout the parkour. That's how I view this, at least. And sometimes there's an aspect of you need to keep the GC rider who's a weaker TTer also on board, which I can understand. But with some teams, that's not the case, and they still finish with more than 4 riders. But going to the top teams for a second, Quickstep, EF, Ineos, and Bahrain. We mentioned Quickstep, Ineos, and Bahrain as the 3 teams that were likely going to have great result at the end of this team time trial yesterday. I feel like I'm disappointed in the result of Ineos.
Yeah, I think on paper they had the riders with most time trial pedigree. Tim Merlier, Bert van Leerberger, Cherney not really, Seri. These guys don't have individual time trial pedigree like
Cherney
Josh
did.
Tarling. But like a Tarling, like a Platt. I'm talking world champion, on the track. Who else? Tuller's a good time trialist. But it seems like in windy conditions, the team time trial has a different set of requirements, which I don't really understand, bar you do a shorter pull in the wind, and it's more almost representative of riding in the crosswinds yesterday, taking short, hard pulls as opposed to a constant individual effort where you have to be aero because you're not able to draft at all in an individual TT. So I think Ineos, if I had to look at, there was some mistakes there, I think, in the final 3-4 minutes. I think with Ben Zwift, if I had to interpret going through that hairpin, I think it was he stood on the front, not really going anywhere, nor pulling off for too long, and you could hear people saying, like, fucking pull off on the live broadcast, or something like that, or get out of the way, because, like, he didn't pull off quick enough, and maybe that cost them half a second, which it all counts in the end.
Yeah, and
they finished... Tullett, I think, had to finish in full, but Tullett's a good time trial rider.
And then we heard after the race ended, we heard Plapp talking a bit. Looks like he was on the hot mic for a bit. And the first half I couldn't understand because it was like pure Australian English. And that's where you come in. But the second half was, boys, get out of the fucking way. And what was the first half about? Do you have any clue?
I think he was just talking about, he didn't really say anything too much in the first bit.
Yeah.
Just saying like, oh, that's how the way it goes. But yeah, I think maybe there was a bit of miscommunication there, which might have cost him a little bit. Was it 4 seconds or 3 seconds? I'm not sure. We saw a lot of these teams, though, warming up on trainers, the best smart trainer for you to do an indoor ramp test a la Benji or FTP test a la Benji, which he's done about, 1,000 of now, is the Zwift Hub. Built for your bike. It comes at the best price possible in the market with your choice of cassette pre-installed to match your bike from 8-speed to 12-speed, even with no cassette. Putting the Smart in Smart Trainer at $499 US for what it is, which is a really damn good trainer. It's the best deal possible in the market. Easy to set up. Go and check it out through the link down below on Zwift.com, and it'll get you jumping in and jumping on Zwift easier than ever before. So thanks to Zwift for supporting LRCP, and yeah, the Zwift Hub, I got one waiting for me when I go back to Andorra, because there'll be ice on the roads, and I can't wait to get on and jump in. Anyway, EF, I think, were the biggest overperformers. Yep. Bahrain did surprise me, as you said. I think Bahrain as well have a really strong team for this, even though, like, individually they really struggled in the time trials for whatever reason. DSM were decent with the track guys. UAE poor Benji, I would say. 16 seconds is a big gap, and finishing 1 second ahead of Astana is not good. No disrespect to Astana, but, like, who's Astana's GC guy here?
Lutsenko, I think. But that doesn't say too much here either, because he hasn't been on top of everything this year either, unlike previous years where he was really good in February. But I agree that UAE's time trial is not that great, and they're also one of the teams that had a worse time in the first segment, but they didn't really pick it up in the second segment compared to teams like Bahrain and Quickstep, who had a pretty poor time in the first segment, but in the second segment really pushed it through the finish line. So those are examples of teams, Soudal Quickstep and Bahrain, that really did the negative splitting, where they just go slower the first part around to go hammer the last part around, which the second part is that headwind part we mentioned earlier, is what it seemed to be, to me at least. Now, Ineos is a bit of a different one, because all these teams were looking at roughly either going the first part fastest or the second part fastest, but Ineos is the one that stays constant throughout. And I wonder if they apply a different strategy, whether it's like going harder at the start or going harder in the second part, whether they would have gotten a better time out of this time trial. It's all theories at this point because I obviously have no clue about that. Now, did you expect Jumbo to be out of the top 10 here? Because their riders are not really the individual time trial riders, eh?
If you told me they'd lose 20 seconds to Quickstep, I would have said, yeah, sounds about right. Yeah. But out of the top 10, I thought they would have been about 7th region. So they are a few spots worse, but the gap to Quickstep is about what I expected. You know, Koos, Hofstadter. It's not the best TT team that they have. Coy would probably be half decent. I mean, yeah, so they obviously tried to keep it close for Globe on GC, but he lost a minute plus, I think, a minute in the crosswinds yesterday. I will wind back a little bit about what I said about Astana. I think they actually do have a pretty solid TTT team. Cavendish has always been good at them. Bowles strong. Gruzdev's a decent rouleur. Lutsenko won that Dauphiné TT. Martinelli, Romo, Tejada are
especially
solid riders. So
on a shorter one.
It's a good enough team.
If it was a 35-kilometer TTT, then I'd find that an issue with like the sprinter types in there. Because like if you look at Movistar, Gaviria is also one of the first one that drops off, even in this smaller time trial. So, well, it's not really the best example to show, huh? Gaviria is like the prologue sprinter. He's not really great at prologues either. But when it comes to like...
Dude, Movistar were all on the... they were all out of their skis in like the last K and a half. Like not even in a line at that corner. It's crazy.
Well, anyway, that's how this team time trial went. Are the specific parts of like other teams that you're like, wow, or should we dive into the upcoming GC battle and see what this means for GC?
I will say, like, EF, in terms of the budget of the teams around them, I think it's going to be a bit of praise for frenemy of the podcast, Jonathan Vorders here, but you look at the budgets of the teams they're sandwiched between, Soudal Quickstep, Ineos, they're beating UAE and Jumbo-Visma handily, and they don't have an all-star cast of million-euro riders here. Amador, Camargo, Carr, De Bod, Steinhauser, Vandenberg, Wisniewski. 3 of those guys, I think, are on Neo-Pro contracts. 4 maybe even. Steinhauser, Vandenberg, Carr, and Camargo. Carr might have extended. They're all young guys. Wisniewski is like a rouleur, a solid one, but, you know, Amador's came with Carapaz. De Bod's not on $1 million either. He is a solid enough time trials too. That's a really, really good result. Nearly winning this TT with those riders who are, individually I do like quite a lot of them, but and the budget difference. So yeah, impressive from them. The wind, I don't know if it changed or not, but I would say Steinhauser. Like whilst I have said that, they do have some sneaky good TTs in there. Amador's got loads of experience from when Movistar were good, and then Ineos, and then De Bod is a solid time trials, and Steinhauser came top 10 in the Romandy prologue on his own in his first year as a pro. So he's a decent time trial rider too. But Quickstep get it done, Benji. What did you think? Like Remco, they really wanted to win.
Yep.
Do you think they should be going, like, why isn't Remco doing Paris-Nice?
Well, isn't he doing... Well, why isn't he doing Paris-Nice? I think the reasoning behind it is simple. I think Venue said hello and opened his wallet, and as a consequence, Remco is going to all the RCS races, which is UAE Tour, Tirreno, Lombardia, Giro, and so forth. So that entire RCS package, I think that's the reasoning behind it. And to be fair, it's not the biggest deal if he goes to Paris-Nice or Tirreno. It's a preparation race for the rest of the season. He's not peaking for Tirreno, is my opinion at least, nor is he for this race. Well... Mate, we're going to see him against Jay Vine, Australian...
Come on, is it too much
God,
to ask?
Whatever.
Yeah. Well, and at Catalunya, we'll see some big guns too. Tirreno, Paris, and Catalunya got a really nice start list across the 3 so far. We're still a little bit away. Anyway, that was the TT. Apparently... I kept refreshing PCS whilst we were recording just to make sure I hadn't changed. But Platt goes into the GC lead by the milliseconds of the TT ahead of Evenepoel. And that's also because basically if Evenepoel hadn't stuffed that intermediate sprint, one of them, and just took a second, he would be in the GC lead, the first one yesterday, but he didn't. So Plapp's in the GC lead. Hopefully, it looked like he had chamois. What was his chamois situation with Plapp? He had white chamois. Was that the Ineos one?
I'm really
Sewn
curious
in
what the
from
story is
his
behind that, because
TT
like
suit?
he's in a Adidas jersey, he's in the white jersey here, the youth jersey in this team time trial, and as a consequence, he's in a
The youth one, I
probably
think.
organizers made skin suit and not necessarily a skin
Yeah,
suit
the
made by Ineos themselves. Now his chamois, the pad that you have at the bottom of your shorts to make sure that your sitting situation is pretty comfortable while riding your bike, well, that one was white. Like it looked like sewn for. It looked like it was on
looked
the
crazy.
outside. But hey, it's probably, I don't know what the situation is. It was pretty funny to look at. They could have made it slightly more discreet, but if it betters his performance, then I don't think we complain, because last year he was
panda
riding this
pants.
TTT on a road bike, so he's already improving the situation from last year. Now,
True.
imagine if he started this one with a road bike.
Well, Ineos have had trouble with people flatting in TTs. Ganner's flatted in a few pivotal TTs,
Yep.
and Aaronsman maybe, I don't know. No, he just flatted in the road races. Good for Plapp to go into the GC lead. What does this mean for the race? Tomorrow we have Jebel Jais. We'll quickly preview that now as part of our overall GC discussion. It's a 185k stage. They're going to do 90 watts, lose fitness in the first 150ks unless there's crosswinds, but I don't know. Lutsenko nearly won on this when Vingegaard won the other
Yeah.
year and Pog won in a sprint last year. That was crazy from Lutsenko. That was a headwind, wasn't it? So I don't know the wind situation. But on time, just 5.6% and very steady. There is to about 10k's in, 9k's in, where Dumo got dropped last year.
Yeah.
Bunch sprint, Benji. What are you thinking? Because there were attacks.
Bunch sprint
last
sounds
year.
a bit like it's going to be a
Tarmay,
mass
Micah,
sprint with the sprinters there,
Aaronsman,
but I'd more
What are you
resort to
thinking?
the climb causing the group to thin out a bit, and we'll have a sprint with roughly 15, 20 people, and I think that's the same thing you mentioned. The Vingegaard situation was a bit different. It looked like the control was kind of gone in the last few kilometers, and Jonas used that situation to get an advantage, and people they thought it was Chris Harper anyway, so they were like, oh, we probably shouldn't chase yet. We can still catch him in the last kilometer, and then Vingegaard wasn't caught anymore. Now, last year was just basically a sprint, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's a similar situation in last year. Then again, who knows? We might see Gloag do the exact same thing that Vingegaard did in the past. But there's the aspect of there's one team that really needs to attack, or like multiple teams. Every GC team that was put on a minute in stage one needs to make this the hardest climb as possible, because with Jebel Hafid alone, they might not get there. So they need to find situations to try and get advantages on the other riders. And with echelons, I don't see Adam Yates necessarily gaining the time back. So they first have to make sure that they're actually in the front group by the time Jai starts. And when they go down to the climb, they need to make it as hard as possible to try something. But I think it's going to be really tough to drop an Evenepoel and even a Plapp on a climb like this.
Oh, they can't. No way Remco drops
No,
unless he's
eh?
in. Nah, it's not possible unless he's in just complete trash form, which he isn't. Even if he isn't in Giro shape yet, this is such a draft-heavy climb. Yeah, so Remco should be almost the one attacking here. It'll be interesting. I'm not sure Ineos having the jersey by a millisecond is a real advantage, Benji.
Nah.
Because it
But
just Plapp's now got a target literally on his back.
Yeah, but
And
I don't
who
see
have they got to who have they got to defend?
Yeah, but I don't see it as a major disadvantage either, because the territory to defend is echelons in Jebel Jais. Like, and there's only a few people that can attack them that are on the same time, which is Bilbao and Evenepoel. So he only needs to look at two riders
Yeah.
for now.
And Bilbao want the sprint, right? One would
Yeah.
think. But this is all a curious thing. Bilbao doesn't win these sprints. He wins like a reduced flat sprint.
Who wins?
Remco almost. I think Remco is a really big chance to win. The same as Platt. Platt went way too early last year. Remember, he launched
Yeah.
at 500 meters to go when Micah was leading. Something I really want to see tomorrow. How long Tarling can last on a climb like this. Because remember, Bissiger pulled for ages last year. Bjerg pulled on this. I think Tarling can go longer
Yeah.
on this sort of climb. I even wonder if Tarling can make the finish on this
Ooh.
climb, honestly. I think he's a special rider. Tullett should be leading out Platt, right? like Micah, like Almeida
Yeah.
did for Pog last year,
Yeah.
so Plapp can go. That is, I know that riders have their own ambitions, and maybe
But-
they both got leadership before. It's at some point Ineos have to say World
Obviously.
Tour races, like Tour Down Under, we already said it, Benji. There are too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Plapp's the leader. He's in good shape. I'm sorry, but even if Tullett might drop him on Jebel Hafid, we don't know. But at this stage, he has to lead him out on Jebel Jais to try and win the stage. I don't see anything else.
I think the winner will come from UAE. I think they've got multiple riders that can get to the top of this climb. They've got
McNulty,
multiple riders
Finisher.
to attack that Remco and so forth don't necessarily need to instantly respond on. Even Plapp and so forth don't need to instantly respond on. McNulty, Soler, fine.
Soler's the
even.
one. Soler's going to go.
I believe in it, but
La Molina style.
if he gets away earlier, like in the last 600, 700 meters or something, then Soler can make it. But if it's coming down to a sprint, then
No, he'll go then.
my
He'll
pick
go
would
when
be
Jonas went.
my pick would be Adam Richard Yates. He's found a new name. He's
I
got a
know
middle
Simon
name.
Felipe Yates and Adam Ricardo Yates. Wait, how does Yates win?
A sprint, second last year after Pogacar, right?
True, he was good. Yeah.
Lombardia
That was a hard
sprint?
lead out.
Was okay that one time 2 years ago.
I'm going with McNulty.
Okay,
McNulty / Soler, but you said Soler, so
No,
I
you can
think
take it.
Soler is a lock to go like he did in La Molina.
Yeah.
Because UAE need to get a stage win here.
Yeah.
Like it's not going too well. They have to win a stage. I wouldn't rely just on Yates in a sprint. So McNulty, Soler, because if Yates attacks, he'll get marked. McNulty and Soler won't to the same extent.
But why are you not selecting your Australian man, Jay Vine?
I'm not sure. I don't know. Didn't he lose time in the TT today? Because he pulled early and then pulled off in the TT.
I don't remember.
Maybe for her feet. Keep my powder dry for her feet. But he might be working for Yates there as well. But no, I think also Remco would mark him. But yeah, I more look at like the Soler types. Who else do I like for this sort of finish? We've got Tarame here, Lutsenko can go.
At his best day, yes, but at his current form, I don't see Lutsenko necessarily being there anymore. Because he didn't look amazing in, Jesus, I'm going to get it wrong again. Was it Saudi this time around where Lutsenko rode against Jorgensen?
Did you know that Jakob Fuglsang was here?
Yes, I saw it yesterday when he was dropped in Group 3.
Wow. So maybe he can attack. Movistar, I'd like to see them do something with like an Oscar Rodriguez in the break. I don't know what time Leknesund is on. If Leknesund was in the breakaway, he can do it solo and win this stage. Leknesund is the perfect rider for this climb. He needs to I don't know what time he is on GC, if he's too far back. This is one of the examples, Benji, where if you're on 2 minutes in Group 2 yesterday,
Yeah.
you should lose 10 minutes, right?
What?
Because if you're Leknesund,
Oh, yeah, you're right.
If you're on 2 minutes, it's annoying. They might not let you in the break, but you could be actually win this stage from the break on Jebel Jais. Lutsenko got caught in 21.
The only breakaway I've ever seen actually win in the UAE Tour was that one breakaway that Alpecin decided they didn't feel like controlling that much last year.
Lutsenko was
Gazprom.
so close.
Yeah, but that's an...
And that was headwind.
I don't believe in the break.
Anything is possible. The teams did it right. Dowsett got in the break with, I think, one of their climbers on Israel and pulled it. Tug Buddy, the OG Tug Buddy. I don't know. So, yeah.
Man,
We'll see. But
Buchmann.
that's the GC situation. No, don't give me Buchmann. Don't give me Buchmann. Come on.
We're a serious podcast.
Come on. Serious. Is Schachmann here?
No. Zwiehoff?
I actually do like Zwiehoff, but he's not quite good enough. I don't think. I was keen to see how Osborne goes too. Jason Osborne at
Pools?
Alpecin, although he arrived late for the TTT. Maybe he had a gastro problem, but Osborne really should be making this finish. Actually, Pools is it's a nice pick, Benji, but surely he'll be leading out Bilbao for the sprint.
Yeah.
I think he won't get any freedom.
Yeah. That's expected. You're right.
Who do you like for GC now? GIS shouldn't change it too much. Bonus seconds here or there. Who do you actually like for GC now?
Well, the obvious name is Remco Evenepoel on Jebel Hafid, because I feel like Bilbao is the kind of rider that is very consistent but never wins GC. So he's out of the equation of winning for me, even though he's going to top 3 this race 100%. But I kind of want Plap to win this race. I'd find it really funny if Plap wins this race.
Yates will be attacking, right?
Yeah.
Will Remco be smart enough to let Platt burn himself?
How much time did Yates take? How much time did Yates take on Jebel Hafid that 1 year when it went nuclear? Like 3 years ago, 3 years ago? 2020? A minute 03 on Pogacar back in the day. Yeah. If he does that here, he wins GC still.
Yeah, but was that... Yeah, that's crazy. And he should be in good shape. Like,
I don't count him out. If he takes bonus seconds tomorrow, he's on like 55 seconds or something. No, probably not. Because of the TTT, he's probably on like, a minute 25 or something. So a minute 15, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Sorry, Adam Yates, you're not winning GC. Richard.
Maybe it's the best version of if Adam Ricardo Yates arrives, he could win GC. Otherwise, the TT helmets are getting out of control. We have the specialized sock neck one, the Darth Vader, and then there's the Ineos Darth Vader one. There's the EF POC one. That's been around for ages. I'll allow that one. UnoX just introduced some bizarre one. I think Benji must have designed it. UnoX, like a Lego character.
Well, I've been reading like a Star Wars book recently, and it kind of looks like Darth Vader's helmet, but in yellow with like a hole in the middle on the forehead. So, viable theory.
What if the UCI will step in? Like, what if people literally they eventually have helmets like the tail goes to people's like the lower of their back?
I think we too should be assigned the role of UCI fashion police, and if it doesn't go through our requirements of decent looking, it's not allowed to be on screen because it affects the viewing figures of cycling.
Plap chamois today wouldn't have passed muster. wouldn't have allowed that one, probably. But yeah, the UnoX TT helmet is crazy. Whether it's fast, I don't know. One would hope so. One would hope that they're bringing that out looking like that because it is fast. But anyway, that's all from us today. We'll have the Jebel Jais recap tomorrow. A sort of unique, very steady, gradual mountaintop finish. Hope you enjoyed the live stream if you've been watching on YouTube. And if you're on podcast players, make sure to give us a review on the platform you're on. It helps the podcast out a lot. Thanks to Zwift as always, and we'll see you with the recap tomorrow. Ciao.